You guys came out with a slew of steps that you're taking to mitigate the virus impact. Before we get to that, I just wanted your overall thesis on how much you see global advertising spending slumping this year.
Well, look, I think that clearly, companies that are most impacted, are going to cut spending. But there are other sectors, packaged goods, food retail, health, technology, telco, where I think, spending will hold up. It's ironic that people are watching more television than they've ever watched before. You're seeing spend, shift to digital channels. But actually, TV, traditional television, holding up, relatively well. And what we say to our clients is that those companies that can afford it should continue to invest, because we believe they will earn disproportionate rewards in this environment.
Do you see any difference in sort of your margins or how much you're able to make when they shift to, say, more online than they would, say, in print or in stores, for example?
Well, ironically for us, digital media is more labor-intensive in many ways than traditional media. So in many ways, a shift to digital, helps WPP's business. Our two largest media partners, are Google and Facebook. So we've made, a lot of progress working with them. So I don't think that that's going to impact us. It's really, making sure that we've, made the necessary investments in technology, which is something really we've been focused on, for the last 10 or 15 years.
So to that point, let's go through sort of what the steps that you guys took. In particular, I wanted to focus on your staffing. So you freezed new hires. You're looking at freelance expenditures. You're going to really cut discretionary costs. You're going to postpone any salary increases for 2020 for WPP. How long does that template sustain you? And then when do you have to talk about job cuts?
Well, I think coming into this, what's important to recognize is we raised £3.2 billion over the last 18 months, particularly through the Kantar transaction. So we come into it with probably the lowest net debt the company's had in the last 10 years. So we are in a strong position financially. Our view is that those companies in the strongest position will come out in the best place, and that's what we need to do. We face the same uncertainty that everybody does, which we don't know how long this will continue. And so is it a 1 quarter or 2 or 3 quarter? And the longer it goes on, the increasing time it's going to take to sort itself out. So, I think we can't rule out, tougher measures in the future. At what point we need to get to them, I think remains to be seen.
Can you give me a list of priority of what those toughest measures are? Okay, next up is this, then we're going to look at this, then we look at that.
Well, as you saw in the statement, a number of senior people across WPP, including myself, have taken pay cuts, for the current quarter, and we'll look at that again for the third or fourth quarter, taking out new hires. But we are looking at ways of, people working 4 or 5 days a week, and I think at some point, if things get particularly difficult, we can't rule out that we will have to look at job cuts in parts of the world, like all companies do. We have to protect the company, my goal as chief executive is to protect as many jobs in WPP as possible as we go through this, like other chief executives, is very important to us. And throughout this period, making sure our staff are our number one priority has been critical. We sent 100,000 people, to work from home 3 weeks ago. And if you said to me we could do that, I'd have thought you were mad. But we have done that, and the company's working, very effectively remotely. So, our responsibility is to our people. We're going to take all the steps necessary to protect, as many jobs as we can as we go through this period.
I know how you feel. I'm broadcasting from home and haven't gone to black yet, so that's like a really good sign. The other steps that you've taken is you canceled your dividend and your buyback. That did surprise some analysts, and I wanted to get a sense from you of, were you just being extra cautious with your cash buffer here, or do you see something that the analysts hadn't seen?
I don't think we see anything analysts haven't seen. Look, it's as great an uncertain period, as it's been, since 1945. And I don't think we wanted to look back in a year's time and think that there were steps that we wish we'd done that we hadn't done. So we suspended the dividend and the buyback. And if things, recover more quickly than they could do, we can revisit that during the year. But, our view is that those companies that come into this situation with the strongest balance sheet will come out of it in the strongest position. And that is, what we were determined to do for WPP.
Do you feel like the steps that you've made, like you were saying, a lot of people working from home, for example, do you feel like there are going to be structural changes to the way you run the business when we come out of it, rather than go back to business as normal?
Well, look, we've seen 10 years of innovation, haven't we, squeezed into 4 weeks. I don't know about you, but my kids are at home. the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we have meetings, the way we shop, the way we educate has all transformed in ways we could never have managed 4 or 6 weeks ago. We've been trying to get our people to use Microsoft Teams. We've seen a 60-fold increase in adoption in 6 weeks, something we've been trying to do for 3 years. So I think that there's no doubt that we'll emerge in a world that's extremely different. And I think it calls for us at WPP to accelerate the strategy of simplification, investment in technology, deleveraging the business. And I think if we do the right things, clients do need the services that WPP offer when we come out of this the other side, and we will come out the other side. What we do will be even more important to them, I think, than it is coming into it, because companies do need to communicate with people. We've done some research that say that 84% of Americans will judge companies on what they do during this crisis. So it's really critical that companies think about how they behave and how they communicate to customers in the right way.
It's a great point. I play Hatchimals in between my shows. So last question for you. You have about 5% of your net sales come from China, at least as of last year. Can you give me a sense of how that economy is opening up?
I mean, our people in China are coming back to work. We've got about 75–80% of our people now back working from the office. We've seen some pent-up demand in some categories, but I'd say the recovery has been more gradual. But I think, what we should look at as a lesson for elsewhere in the world is those companies that, maintain spending have come back more quickly and were ready. I think we're in a stronger position. So I think that's really important. We need to look through this and come out the other side.